Hello and welcome in to one of the final episodes, and it was the final of this season, and well, it's one of our final episodes of the season. We're about done here, which is insane.
Yep,
Um, the only thing more insane, just to get right into it, right, was that
I guess
freaking game.
so.
I mean, I was
Yeah.
there,
Oof.
and let me tell you what, very early in that game, I won't repeat what I was saying, what people around me were saying. I mean, it's pretty
Bad.
bad. Now, you take that and we get down what, 17 nothing, and then 27-6, and it's getting late. I mean, late. And I don't know what it is about this team. I called us earlier in the season. I think I called us this, but it's like we're the cardiac kids because this team is young, right? So that plays on that word. And man, I think this is the closest I've ever been to a Georgia game putting me into cardiac arrest.
Yeah. It was absolutely insane for sure. Even just watching it, I can't imagine being there. But um I will say, you know, after talking to some of my friends at church today and you know, uh and then some people from work, hey, Brent Key King or is it Brent Key or King?
He,
Key. Brent Key, you're establishing a team there and a good program. They're not the engineers that we anticipated, uh, especially the past couple of years for sure. Um, but the previous 10 years before that, they're not engineers on the football team anymore. They're football players and
Mhm.
they're gritty, gritty.
They are.
And they definitely proved themselves to be still be the little brother because a win's a win, but they did prove themselves for sure and definitely gave me about 12 heart attacks and two migraines in a matter of 5 hours of play.
And as y'all can see, Dad's not with us again tonight because he's still a little under the weather. Can't really talk much without going into a coughing fit. So
Yeah.
he's in the comments and he says, "We don't die." Yeah, for somehow we don't
Mhm.
die this season, and it's insane.
We
Yeah,
die in the first half. That's what happens. And then we
yeah,
don't die in the second half. I wish we can just correlate what we do in the second half in the first half so we don't have to do as much in the second half. It's just insane.
yeah. But just the way that we're able to come back is
How we
phenomenal.
did, especially Friday, that was insane. I've never seen that happen before.
Yeah,
It, it, and to be the second longest game in history,
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. It was a lot of big, stats and takeaways that you can, take from this game. Um, one of them being, and I think Dad, I'll shout Dad out for this. He wanted me to share it. Um, so bear with me here while I'm pulling that up. Yeah, Dad says down 14 with 8 minutes left and a win is unreal. Yeah.
Oh.
This was the third time in this series that Georgia trailed by 17 or more. We were down 17. We were down 20 two other times at the half and came back and won both of those games. And then obviously Friday night we came back and won 44-42 in 8 overtimes. Um, and I think that's the second longest SEC game in history. I mean, I know it's not between SEC opponents, but you said second longest game in the history of
In
college
history, yeah,
football.
football, college, yeah, second longest. The first one was 9 overtimes between Indiana and Penn State back in 2020 or 2018. I can't remember, but it
Regardless,
wasn't that long ago. But still, it went to 9 overtimes and Indiana won. I actually remember that game. I just can't remember what year.
okay, so fair enough. Regardless, this was by all metrics just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like you said, almost 5 hours of full game time.
Yeah, it
And
started at 7:45 in that night, and it didn't get done until almost 12:30 that night.
well, and here's the joke on that, right? So it was a Friday, which is only the second time that that's ever happened in the series that we play
Hmm.
Tech on Black Friday, and it was a Friday
Yeah.
game. Well, the joke is, well, it had to be Saturday in Athens, so we won on Saturday in Athens. And that's what
We
Dad
did.
just said. We won on Saturday. We had to
Yeah.
wait till Saturday to pull out the win. Otherwise, it wasn't Saturday between the hedges. But man,
Yeah, our guys were like, "Yeah, let's wait until midnight. Let's drag this thing on, you know, give everybody heart attacks until Saturday morning and then win the game." I
and
was like, Nah,
I
nah."
will I will say the atmosphere, the build up. I wasn't at the Tennessee game, but I was with obviously our friends who were at the Tennessee game, and um, they said the atmosphere to start the game at least was similar. However, you know, we did get down to Tennessee, but not as much, and we seemed to, gain control and dominate the Tennessee game quicker. We did not dominate this game at all.
They dominated us, if
Yeah,
anything.
they had control. Game control was in their favor. They were imposing their will, but I will say this again, somehow, some way, we flipped the script, and it only took 8 overtimes to get there, like Dad says, but we found a way to win because there were no less than probably 4 or 5 times in this game, legitimately, if you go look at the probability of Tech to win, it was at 99 point like 8%. I mean, it got almost a sure thing. Done
Mm.
deal. And we pulled out. So it's much better being on this end. But I will, like you said, excuse me, I will give Georgia Tech their flowers, and Kirby definitely did that in his presser and post game on the field. And you saw the long exchange that him and Brent Key had. I think this
Yeah.
is the start of a real series now. I mean,
Hmm.
this is going to be game one of, we're going to look back in 10 years and say, wow, look at this. I think
Hmm.
Tech really has found something. Now,
Yeah.
it will be interesting moving forward for them at quarterback, though, because let's talk about that real quick. Their quarterback is the perfect style quarterback for what how they want to play. Um,
Yeah.
he was absolutely insane. I mean, it looked like the same daggone play every time down the field. It was a
Every other
fake,
play, at least.
yeah, it's a fake on the pitch, and he just kept it. Or it's a, he's pitching it, and we thought he had the ball, right? So I mean, we just could not stop him. He was a warrior and played amazing. Yeah, and let's look at his stats because I'm interested to see.
I will
I know.
say their backup that they had, um, that played well against NC State.
Hmm.
Um, he he has some. I mean, he's a
Hmm.
true freshman. Um, so I mean, they got someone, but I think if they want to be contenders like they are this year, to be in a good bowl this year, to continue that into next year, I think they have to go out and recruit a transfer quarterback from somewhere.
I mean, maybe Philo, I think, is their guy in waiting. He didn't play Friday because he was redshirting. He'd already played in 4 games, so he might be the answer moving forward because he can run some too. But let's listen to this. Haynes King was 26 of 36 passing for 300
Mm,
yards, 2 touchdowns, zero
mhm,
picks.
mhm.
I don't know if he's thrown for 300 yards yet this season. And if he has, it may be one other time. So that's incredible for him. And then he had 24 carries for 110 yards and 3 touchdowns. That was almost double the carries that the running back got, Jamal Haynes, and 20 more yards. Jamal Haynes had 13 carries for 91 yards rushing. I mean, he
That's
did it all.
insane.
And then what gets
And he
lost
was
in all,
hurt
yeah, he wasn't
still.
100%. But I mean, who isn't at this point in the season?
All right.
So,
Yeah.
but what gets lost in all this is Carson Beck had himself another game. Listen to this. He went 28 of 43 for 297 yards, 5 touchdowns passing, 0 picks.
Hmm.
I mean, he played out of his mind too. If and
In the
if
second half.
Yeah, well, I mean, without him, we don't come back again. Like it's been that way every comeback this season. Without him, we're sunk. We're screwed. And shout out um sorry, I was getting over to the defense here. Dan Jackson, man.
Dan the freaking man.
Dan the man saved us.
He fellow
He
white boy
He bowed up, made some huge tackles.
and made a huge play at the
Yeah,
end.
yep.
So that way we could tie it up. Huge play.
I mean, again, that was one of those moments that if Tech gets that, they win the game.
We lost.
And he single-handedly came in like a one-man wrecking crew and just blew that play up.
Yeah, I mean that was a clean tackle, but at the same time, with how this how football is nowadays, I'm surprised they didn't look at that for targeting. But I mean that was clean. He
I mean, yeah,
the it was clean, but they could definitely have looked at it and been like, oh, he was targeting. He bowed his head down and everything. Okay, cool. But he hit his shoulder pads. If you look at it first, he hit his shoulder pads and went up to his helmet, not to his helmet and down.
right,
So, I
right.
mean, they could have easily looked at that too and called it a target.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think that would have, it was clean, so I don't think that would have been the call, but it would not have surprised me if they threw the flag. And then they
Hmm.
got reviewed and they say, "Oh no, this is clean." So, um, yeah, and Dad said all his TDs in the second half. Yeah, Carson Beck did his thing in the second
Yeah,
half. Thank
yeah,
God, because otherwise
yeah.
we're sitting here talking about we got to win this week. Otherwise, we're out of the playoff. So,
Hmm.
um, but we did, and it was
Got it
incredible.
done.
Probably the most incredible Georgia game that I've witnessed in my lifetime that I can remember, certainly.
Hmm.
And wow. So I'm just glad that we came out on this end of it again. I can't imagine being a Tech fan
Yeah. I
today.
I I feel bad for them because they fought hard, but hey, now you're in a good bowl game. You just got to wait it out, see how the championship games finish out, what the losers go to bowl games wise and everything. And whoever you face, you just perform like that again and dominate, prove yourself like you have been all year. I still believe to this day, like if they were healthy, they could have beaten Notre Dame. I truthfully think that, but they weren't healthy at that time. So that's why they lost that game. And then they lost to another team that they could have easily beat. Um,
And then they beat
and
Miami.
I mean, they beat Miami. They proved themselves there. And then they could have easily beaten Georgia. So you're looking at a potential 9-3 Georgia Tech team this year if they, you know, were healthy
Or 10 and
completely,
2.
or 10-2, one or the other. I mean, they they have proven themselves this year for sure. They're putting themselves on the map.
Yeah, for sure. Well, um, this wasn't the only crazy game of the day. We did
Oh
have
my gosh, yes!
some
Shout
others.
shout out to my boy Demetrius Knight Jr.
It,
Oh my goodness,
I remember, so I was watching that game
me
Saturday.
too.
That was the game that I was locked on early on in the day. And I, we were watching it the whole time while we are having another Thanksgiving with my in-laws. And I'm like, wow, you know, South Carolina, here they are again. They're they're doing their thing. They're keeping it close at Clemson, and
Mhm.
they led and then they trailed, and so it kind of was going back and forth. And then all of a sudden on that final drive, I saw the ball go, Klubnik made the throw, and then I see the guy dive, and I was like, that looks like D. That was D. Holy crap.
Mhm. Hey,
So that was cool to watch.
that's why you keep your eye on the quarterback, follow the ball where it goes. And Demetrius was at the right place at the right time. I mean, hey, he saved his program from another uh, potential devastating loss. So I love it. Uh, Everybody was praising him. He is a true leader. And I respect him tremendously, even though he's younger than me. Um, but he's proven himself, and I wish nothing but the best for him for the rest of the season and going into the NFL. If I think he has a shot, I really do. And he's really proven himself this year, putting some good numbers up and showing out during these big games. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's ahead of him. I mean, he's got a shot. So,
Yep, definitely
um,
has a shot. They just got to finish. Just have to finish. And
yeah, and they've got
hey,
an
hot take.
outside they got an outside
Yeah,
chance of the playoff.
a hot take. I'm telling you, I'll shout out my other buddy, Michael Francois. I love you, and I love Ole Miss. I know they lost against South Carolina, lost to Ole Miss, but you want to have the best 12 out there. Put South Carolina in that top 12. Come on now. I
Maybe.
would much rather have a 9-3 South Carolina than a 10-2 Indiana or 10 or 11-1 Indiana, in my opinion, because they're better. 100%. Or even some of these teams that lose in the championship, I wouldn't have those teams in the playoff over South Carolina. Like I would have South Carolina in it. I would.
See, I mean, we this is the debate that's going to be had next week for sure. But you're not going to get a huge amount of pushback from me on that. Um, I think they have a legitimate argument now. Um, Dad says they're not in the playoff. I think ultimately they probably do get left out because of
I
how
think so.
championship weekend shakes up. But man, they've played their way right into it, and they're one of the hottest teams in the country. So if they do get in, you don't want to draw them round one. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
And
If they get in, for sure.
if they got in too, they would be playing one of those Big Ten teams probably. And yeah, I would pick South Carolina. But anyway, let's get to our results for the week because they were kind of crazy as well due to the
Oh boy.
chaos here. And this
Mm,
is our final week of the pick'em. So we have a
mm,
winner now. We have a
mm,
winner here. And this was very surprising to me. So
mm, 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 mm.
let me know when you can see this.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I can see it. Oh my gosh.
Dad pulling out
Mm,
the one game victory on you in the last week of the season.
mm, 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 mm. Man,
So, and getting the Georgia Tech pick right for him and getting the Michigan pick right
sealed the
really
deal.
kind of, yeah, sealed the deal there. And
Notre Dame actually scared me.
we talked about uh South Carolina and Georgia a lot, but let's get into that Ohio State Michigan game real quick because I know we can spend a couple minutes here.
Yeah. Hey,
Do does Ohio State really need to think about firing Ryan Day?
I
I'm just
would.
I'm just
I
asking a
would
question.
because the only reason why I say that, or well, a couple of reasons. I got two things on that. One, he is 1-4 against Michigan,
Hmm.
and Michigan did not have the team, in my opinion, and with how they were looking this year, they did not have the team to beat this team.
No.
And then two, they should definitely fire him because they just spent $20 million in the offseason to do what? You
So
couldn't spend the $20 million to beat your rival.
yeah. And
Like
it's
you
like
spent all that money for nothing.
yeah. It's like I said
I
on Wednesday night when we did the preview show. It's like Michigan's in their head now. I mean,
admit that's it's in their head for sure. Every time they play them, they're like, "Oh crap, here we go again." Instead of being like, "Oh, we're definitely the better team. We have the numbers against them. We have the people against them. Like they had the better receivers, the better running backs, the better quarterback, the better defense, and they throw it. And they only scored 10 points.
yeah, their
The
offense
whole
looked putrid.
yeah,
It was
like
awful.
they all look bad. And so I think, truthfully, what happened with Michigan is they just like Ole Miss did with Georgia, they circled this game because they know they'll at least get this win because they want to focus on this win. And sure enough, they did. They got it done. So I give nothing but gratitude towards Michigan. They fought and they got it done. And I know I picked Ohio State, That was one of those where I'm just like I can't pick Michigan, but at the same time I was like I should have. So
Well,
Michigan did their thing.
they did. And what's going to happen next year now? Michigan's just flip that number one QB. Um,
Potentially getting the number one receiver, I heard.
and you've already beat Ohio State 4 straight years, and you've had a down year. And the only real thing that they need is a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they're right back in the conversation again. I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, Ohio State, it just feels like, from at least for me, every year recently. Um, and this goes back to even the COVID year where they played in the national championship game against Clemson, right? Or no, against
Mm-hmm.
Alabama. They beat Clemson to get there. And I don't know. To me, they're always missing either an it factor or a toughness, or, you know, in years past, it may have been defense. Now the defense is actually really good. And it's Ryan Day's side of the ball on offense that, with all those shining toys and weapons, just, it's like
Where
Dad
were
said,
they?
Michigan actually showed up and played with some pride. Where was Ohio State's? They were at home. You were huge
Yeah.
favorites,
Huge
and
favorites.
you had a trip to the Big Ten championship to avenge your only loss of the season, and you blow it.
Yeah.
And you blow it, and
You absolutely blew it.
you would have had the number one seed in the playoff. You'd be the
Yep.
favorite to win the national title.
Yep.
And
Now here's the question, because I don't know how I would feel if I was the committee, but do you really put Ohio State still in the playoff even though they're 10-2?
they're
Like truthfully,
going,
I know that they're going.
they're going
It's
to.
it's it's going to happen, but like, why would you put them in when they're the third best team because they're not in a championship game. They're the third best team behind Oregon and Penn State. Why not? So you're saying they could potentially have three teams that go in the playoff when Ohio State didn't really prove themselves?
No, I think the Big Ten's getting four. They're going to get Indiana as well.
Ugh, I know, but like, eh, I hope they don't, because Ohio State, well, definitely not Indiana. Indiana shouldn't. They're not one of the top 12 teams. They're not one of the top 12 best teams,
Well, I
in
mean,
my opinion.
this season their record is going to say that, so that's what's going to get them in. And like Dad's just said, Ohio State beat Penn State, so that's their argument to get in the playoff. That's
Yeah,
their
but
win.
if we truly sit down and think about, like, does the committee really focus on the win and loss column, or do they really care about the head-to-head matchups, or do they really just care about wins and losses, or do they just want to say, oh, this person beat this person and worry about the head-to-head, and then you actually put the 12 best teams?
Well, we'll see a week from right now. Actually, I think it'll be a 7:30 or 8 o'clock reveal. Um, or no, maybe it's like at noon on Sundays, on the final Sunday. But that's the question that we will need an answer to. How do they value all these head-to-heads, especially with the SEC, and now with some Big Ten teams going down, and there's like this circle of, well, this team beat that team, and but they lost to that team, and then, so it's just like this endless just circle of who's better. Everybody's going to have some sort of an argument, but what's better, and what does the committee think about that? Dad says it'll be four Big Ten and four SEC teams. I think he's right. I think that's a lock now because um, Miami
Who's
lost.
going to be the fourth SEC? Because you got Texas and Georgia, Tennessee, and then who's the fourth?
It's going to be Alabama.
No way.
Alabama, Alabama next to Georgia has the best wins of the season.
No,
Hmm.
South Carolina.
No, because they lost to Alabama and they lost to um, who else did they lose to? They lost to Ole Miss pretty bad. Dad says Ole Miss or Alabama. I mean, those are the two teams with the best argument. They have the best wins to be
Hmm.
that fourth SEC team. But
So
it'll
you're
be
saying
one. It won't be both of them.
so we're saying four Big Ten, four SEC, and one ACC, and then
Yeah,
one random,
yeah, it'll be
which would be
one.
probably Boise State.
Yeah, one ACC, one Big 12, four Big
And
10, four SEC, and then that leaves the
Mountain
highest,
West
yeah, the Mountain West, and then
champ.
an at large, another at large out there for. I mean, it could be a fifth Big Ten team, you know. I mean, but
It's gonna be crazy.
oh, that's right. Dad said Notre Dame. Good call. That's who I was thinking of. It's Notre Dame.
So we're
Yeah.
going four Big Ten, four SEC, one ACC, and Notre Dame.
Hmm.
Mm, it's gonna be crazy.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely have something to think about now because, I mean, what you and I just did, we just thought it out off the top of our head. We're not looking at all the metrics in front of us, but yeah, I mean, they've got to decide how they want to do this. And I'm actually glad that they have a decision to make because you would argue they haven't had very many hard decisions to make in the past because
Yeah.
there's
And
been
they've done Georgia dirty too.
yeah, I mean, but they didn't see that as a hard decision. They didn't.
No.
They didn't
No.
blink twice. They were like, "Oh, Alabama's in,
Yep.
Georgia's out."
Yep.
So,
Just because Saban's last year, they're like, oh, we're gonna put them in. They
speaking
weren't the better
of
team.
Alabama too,
Mm-hmm.
they're the next game on this slate, and they handled business against Auburn, and you and I didn't think that they would. I thought, this could go one of two ways, right? And it went the second way that I thought it could go. The first was they just continued to struggle, right? And it's Auburn, and that's always their toughest game, no matter how bad Auburn is. Um, but this year, Auburn just didn't think Auburn had enough offense, and Dad's right. They couldn't stop Milrow,
No.
so they weren't going to win this game.
Milrow was Milrow, and
Yeah. I mean, it's like now when he throws the ball, he's throwing picks, but when he's running, he's Superman. So
scoring.
he's he's gotta he's gotta just keep running the ball, I guess.
I think this was a good game, I would say. Hugh Freeze definitely, he had a game plan. It's just their offense couldn't produce. Um,
They also need a
but
quarterback in the worst way.
they do. Like he threw what, two picks the last few minutes to cause that to officially be Alabama's win. Um, because I think that could have gone Auburn's way, truthfully, because Alabama's defense is not that good. It's really not. It's pretty
They're
soft.
they're not what they used to be, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're definitely not what they used to be. But I mean, hey, Alabama got it done. Truthfully, it was just Milrow got it done. Um,
Well, it's good to have that
so,
guy on your team.
but enjoy it while you got it because you're not going to have it next year. That's for sure. He's going to the draft. If he would be stupid to stay another year,
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think he's gone.
because he's probably. But I would say he's if he's not the first quarterback, he'll be the second one gone.
Maybe, maybe. Um,
So
and then we broke the wretched curse. We had a game where we all picked the same team, and that was Notre Dame, and they handled it USC. They allowed way more points than I thought that they would to a
yeah,
bad USC team, but they still got it done on the road by 14. So if you beat somebody by 14 on the road, I guess that's a blowout, right? So
yeah.
Notre
That,
Dame secured their spot in the playoff, like we've already talked about.
they're not going to go far. They're going to lose in the first round.
Hmm. Hot take?
But no, no take. Just knowing facts. They're never good in the playoff or uh, when it was just four teams. You see what they did when Alabama played them. Because that could be the matchup. If anything, if Alabama gets in, it's going to be probably Alabama and Notre Dame against each other. If you really think about it,
It might be, and that's the last team they want to see.
exactly. That's so. Like, do we truly put Alabama in? Like, it's just it's going to be crazy. I hope the committee does. You know, I don't, I guess you could say the right thing. You know, but I mean they got to do their homework and figure this out because if not, it's just going to be blowout after blowout after blowout, potentially.
Well, it might be, and
If
that was kind of the argument for not expanding, right? It might
hmm
be a pretty sad first round, but we'll see. I think there'll be some good
Yeah,
matchups.
I think so
Um,
too.
Dad said USC scored a meaningless TD in the last seconds. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, hey, let's make it look better than it actually is kind of situation. Um, and then the final game on here, Texas pretty much dominated this game, controlled it start to finish. I watched every
Mm.
snap of this game, and Texas A&M's only
Texas,
points were a pick six. So they,
I will say this. Yes, Texas did control this game for sure. But I felt like um, Texas A&M Texas A&M definitely had some opportunities. Their defense definitely showed up because this could have easily been a blowout by far. If their defense didn't show up, it would have been like 30, it would have been double the score, 34-7, truthfully. But they made some key stops, some key turnovers. They just couldn't turn those turnovers into points, except for one
yeah,
turnover. I think they ended up with three turnovers, if I'm not mistaken. If not, two turnovers and a turnover on downs, if I'm not mistaken. But I watched this game from the start, and I mean, hey, Quinn Ewers, you better get healthy. You got 5 days, bro. If not, we're targeting your ankle, my boy. Yeah, we're gonna make you run because you were
it's
limping.
it's not that. It's
Uh,
just we absolutely just wrecked his life the first time, and
mm-hmm.
we're not even gonna have to go after his ankle. We're just gonna have to hit him a couple of times, I think, and
Yeah.
we're gonna get him off his game again. I think what gives me pause for concern is Arch. I don't think we're gonna. I saw we definitely will be ready for that, gimmick package that they had him in there for, because that, now you've put that on tape. But he's just a big, strong, physical runner when he wants to be,
Hmm.
and he's got some speed too. So like if we're not sound, in the gaps, he could just take off on us. Um,
I we just
and
need to
if
run spy as much as we can.
well, and that's what I'm saying. Like hopefully Ewer stays in the game because that's our advantage. We can tee off on him.
That's true. Yeah.
So, and like Dad said, bring on Texas. I was more confident seeing that Texas won the game because we hadn't seen Texas A&M this year. Not that that matters a whole lot. It is hard to beat the same team twice, but you also, as a player, you've seen it. You have that muscle memory from that previous game. Your
Hmm.
eyes won't be as deceived. I know Sark's going to pull something crazy out. You know, that's just what he does. There's probably going to be a fake punt or a crazy trick play on offense that, we hadn't seen. Um, and he's really probably going to go for it. But honestly, Texas is in no matter what. So he may not. I may backtrack on what I just said. He may not just go for it because he doesn't have to. They're in. They have one
Yeah.
loss. If even if they lose to us, they're in. So
Yeah, that's true.
because you came
I
in as
mean,
the conference leader,
yeah,
you
but at the same time, if you play this game and you know how physical Georgia is because you've already faced them, you got to protect that ankle. And if you hurt it again, I know you have a month before playoff starts or close to a month. Um, Ankle injuries aren't quick to heal. I'm a connoisseur on that.
me too. This was a
You
slow
you can't
process.
you can't just that's not a fast process. It takes months to
Yeah.
heal a sprain.
Well, and this is a
And
good
if you
stat that Dad just threw in the chat here real quick.
yeah,
He says if he's not mistaken, rematches have occurred 7 times in the SEC championship game, and the team that won the first meeting is 5-2. So that's pretty good. I mean, it is hard to beat the same team twice, but everything that we were just talking about, injuries, getting beat up, it's a long season. The SEC is a gauntlet. This will be the second time that these two heavyweights go at it.
faced each other. Yeah,
And yeah, I mean, with that stat, hopefully it holds true, right? I think it
true.
will.
I think it will too. I think truthfully, I think we just skated by the past two games. We're just like, oh well. I mean, after knowing that we made it to the SEC championship game after the UMass game, um, I think we didn't play as hard as we should have against Georgia Tech, and we're like, oh, we're in our conference championship, so if we get in and we win, we're in the playoff. Instead of being like, this is our last game, do or die situation. We got to win this game rightfully.
There may have been a little bit of that because I mean, the team that walked out of the tunnel was not the same team that walked off the field at the end of the
Yeah.
game. It did not look the same. Um, so, but thankfully, after all the dust settled, we won. So Texas won. They're in the championship, and we play it for this Saturday. So, um, bring it on. Um, and
That's what.
con
Yeah.
to wrap up our Friday night picks, congrats to Dad on point eking out the win. Good job on the first annual. Uh, pick 'em contest.
Hmm. Yep. More to
We'll have
come.
to,
More to come.
yeah, we'll have to keep doing this, and we'll have to come up with some sort of a prize or something. Or
I think we should do a playoff prediction once the playoff finalizes, on Sunday. I think we should do a prediction of who's gonna, like, each week, you know, this team's gonna win. And then once they face the top four, this team's gonna win and go. I think we should do that.
and we might do that. So stay tuned. We just might. We That has not been confirmed yet, but we will definitely discuss it and think about it as the weeks go on because we've only got so many weeks left in the season, which is crazy.
Mhm. So crazy.
But yeah, I not to belabor this, but I came in last place by a wide margin on this, so I'll be looking for redemption next season for sure.
Yep.
Thank God for Notre Dame and Texas, or it would have been an ugly week. So that's all I gotta say.
Yep.
And let's turn the page and look at our rankings going into the final week of the season here. Let me know
Mm.
when you can see that.
I can definitely see that.
All right. And not to go too long on this, because I mean, the last one is the one that matters. The last one is the playoff. Um, for me, real quick, just to kind of go over what I did, you see a lot of movement there. Well, yeah, we've had 2 weeks of upsets.
Yep.
So I got Georgia back at their rightful position towards the top here. I we beat Texas once. I think we take care of business and beat them again this week, and we'll be firm number two team. We'll be the number two seed in the playoff. Um, Oregon's been steady Freddy. They've been up there all season, just about ever since we lost it. So um, they're one. Georgia, Texas gets worked out, so Texas will fall. Notre Dame's in, so I have them already firm in there. They'll probably be, the 5, 6, 7 seed, maybe at the lowest. Um, I got Tennessee, they're in there. And then Dad said took you long enough. Hey, well, look, I had to regain faith in Georgia, okay? Because I know that's what you're talking about. But then I got Penn State, they're in there too, because they made their conference championship and they're 11 and 1. Their only loss to Ohio State, who you do not see pictured for me. Um, They
Wow.
were they were the big losers for me. They're right on the cusp. Um, Indiana's in, and then Iowa State, Arizona State. Only one of those teams gets in. So that that was kind of my thought process there.
Hmm.
I think Alabama gets in, but like we were talking about, Alabama, Ole Miss. Ole Miss actually does have the better argument. They beat Georgia by more. They beat South Carolina by more. They had a better point differential. All these different things. Ole Miss is the more deserving team, but I think the brand and the A will get in. And I think South Carolina's got a really good argument. And Clemson, if they were to upset SMU, they're in. And I think that's what they do. I think Clemson
Yeah.
wins and they get in. So I think that knocks, unfortunately, Alabama getting in knocks South Carolina out, and Clemson getting in, that's the one for the ACC. That's an Ohio State not being in Micah's ranking is crazy. Look, man, I mean, they're a two-loss team and they're gonna fit in somewhere in here, but they're gonna be in the probably the, 7 to 10 range, I think.
I, they'll definitely
And
have a home game, but they're not the top 4 or 5.
no, and the reason they're not here is just they looked really awful against a not great team. And
Yeah.
so what you don't see on here, and this is what I've talked about all season, is there's a bubble here. There's teams on the
Mhm.
bubble. And that's where Ohio State is, in my opinion, right now. Like they're gonna have to really consider Ohio State. I think they get in, but they should really have to consider Ohio State now because their three biggest games of the season, they lost two of them. So you start getting into that argument where, you know, what's going on here. So
Yeah.
what do you have on yours? I know I kind of just dominated that real quick.
Oh no, you're good. No, that's all valid. The only reason why I left Ohio State in is because I think that where I have them as my ranking, same as Dad. I think that's going to be their final spot. I think they're going to have a home game. They're going to be facing will be the 10 seed. Yeah, the
hmm
10 seed because then 8 and 9 play against each other. So I think they'll be facing someone like either potentially someone like Notre Dame, someone like Alabama, someone like Tennessee, you know, some of these teams that in my opinion are way better than them. Um and they're going to get blown out in the first round. Well, not blown out, but they're going to get their feelings and butt hurt. Um but I wish they wouldn't be in it because they haven't, you know, they're 10-2. They lost to Penn State. Or no, sorry.
Oregon and
Right? Did they
Michigan.
Oregon they lost to Oregon and Michigan and they should have lost to Penn State because Penn State just blew it. But
hmm
that's near not it's that. But it's I don't know. You spend I'll continue to say this over and over again. You spend 20 plus $1 million on people and you can't even beat your own rival who's having a mid season. And then you struggle against Penn State and you lose to Oregon and you yes, you dominate Indiana, but that doesn't look good on you. Like your wins are not good wins. It's the law. Those losses are bad losses. Um, so that's why I still keep them in there because they're going to stay in the playoff regardless. So I have them at 7, but I kept a solid 1, 2, 3 up top. I know Georgia is better than Penn State and Texas because Georgia beat Texas once already, and they'll probably do it again. But for me, I have them at 4 because I feel like that's going to be their spot. Um, even if even if they um, if Georgia wins, then they'll be like one like 2. I would say, and then Texas would probably drop down to like 5 maybe or 6. But 1, 2, 3, and 4. Actually, my top 5 are pretty solid. Um, and then I have Tennessee above Ohio State because I think Tennessee is better than them. Um, I have SMU at 8. Um, I'm actually rooting for SMU to win over Clemson, so that way that gives South Carolina a chance to get in as well. And there could be, I mean, this could be a hot take too. We could have potentially 5 SEC teams if they truly look at it, and do the homework and everything. You just never know. Yeah,
And that
but
would include Ole Miss, obviously, because
of course.
like Dad said, South Carolina doesn't have a better argument than either Alabama or Ole Miss. Of the three, Ole Miss is the best option. I think if it came down to those three, and you're talking about resumes,
Mhm.
um, Ole Miss does have the best resume of the three. But
But
again,
their losses, though,
their losses were bad, and the the brand of Alabama,
Hmm.
the mystique
Hmm.
of Alabama. There's something about that. There,
I
you
don't know.
know,
I just think how the committee has been in the past years, they're gonna pull something out of their butt. And I think South Carolina is that team that they pull out of their butt and they're like, oh, here you go. You want your opportunity? This is our first year with this. Good luck. Because I mean they've done it before. I mean, they had Georgia out when they should have been in when they were the number one team. But anyways, regardless, to continue with SMU, I'm actually rooting for SMU. I'm tired of seeing Clemson.
yeah, but
Um,
they're probably, I don't know.
so
They're just
I,
they're just more physical and
I, if they were more physical, they would have beaten South Carolina because they had the better team, in my opinion. But
they
South
do.
Carolina proved themselves
That's your rival though.
at
And
Clemson.
SMU, this is their first go around again at big boy football.
Yeah, but same for Texas. And you see what they did in the SEC. I mean, yes, they had a weaker schedule, but I mean, it's the SEC though. You can't say a game is easy in the SEC, and they
No,
just went 11-1.
that's true.
So, I mean, SMU's proven themselves just like Texas is. And then to finish out 9 through 12, got Boise State. You know, they might be in it. You know, unless watch out for UNLV. That's all I gotta say. Then I got Alabama in there because they're proving themselves. Got Arizona State because they're doing well, and then bringing up the rear, the dark horses is what I like to call this team. Good old South Carolina Gamecocks.
Yeah, and that I think that's the first time they've shown up in my top 12. So I think
Yep, same.
it was well deserved. Um, but again, all this that we're looking at really doesn't matter until next week. There's an argument to be had, but there's clearly, let me show y'all this real quick because Dad just sent this to me and it's the best.
It's it's definitely going to be interesting to say the least. Um, I I just hope the committee just does their homework for sure. Um, and then I was talking to my buddy Michael Francois. Shout out to him. Um, I was just like, I wish because to me it feels like the committee is pretty biased and don't really do their homework. They just, this team is this team with this team, and this team is going to be this rank, and they don't really do their homework and actually sit down and look to see how like a compare and contrast between teams. I wish the committee was the outside looking in, like someone like me and you, Micah. Um, like get unbiased people in the committee so that way you can, have a good record of the 12 team playoff because you don't want it to, ruin the hopes and dreams of or the hopes of having a 12-team playoff and you don't have the best teams out there proving themselves.
Yeah.
It's just it's I don't know. I don't know.
So here's what I have on screen. For those of y'all, I know it's the Zoom's kind of off, but in order for me to get all of it on here, um, it would this is just the best way to do it. So I'll read it for y'all. So bear with me. After all the chaos yesterday, there looks to be three bubble teams fighting for the last remaining playoff spot. All three are 9-3 from the SEC: Ole Miss, Alabama, and South Carolina. South Carolina lost to both of them, and their best win is Clemson. Ole Miss and Alabama's best win is against Georgia. Georgia beat Clemson 34 to 3. Safe to say that South Carolina is out and it's between Ole Miss and Alabama. Ole Miss has 9 wins, outscoring their opponents 390 to 94.
Phew.
And then Alabama has 9 wins, outscoring their opponents 371 to 119. So just
Mm-hmm.
slightly worse. And then in 3 losses, Ole Miss was outscored 73 to 60. In 3 losses, Alabama was outscored 85 or 88 to 55. So by 33. The common opponents again both beat Georgia, which sucks, but the Rebels won by 18 and Bama won by 7. And that was again, that was a it was a miracle comeback by Georgia, but anyway, Bama also had a miracle ending to that with a pick in the end zone. Both beat South Carolina. The Rebels won by 24, Bama won by 2. Alabama beat LSU by 29. Ole Miss lost to LSU by 3 in overtime. Ole Miss beat Oklahoma by 12, and Alabama lost to Oklahoma by 21. See, that Oklahoma game, I think, is the tipping point there.
I think so. That's why I don't think Alabama gets in. So
But
uh,
it's not going to be South Carolina. The argument that you're making is for Ole Miss.
I think it's between Ole Miss and South Carolina because I solely put it on that Oklahoma game. You can't have a worse game. You lose to Oklahoma by 21. Like
Yeah,
what? Your name and your brand, and you're telling me you want to put that in the college playoff over two teams, Ole Miss first, then South Carolina? You want to put Alabama over those two teams?
yeah. I mean, it's definitely very interesting, but it'll all be hopefully answered, and we'll get some at least some insight onto as to how those decisions were made next Sunday. So y'all be sure to tune in a week from today. We will have our reaction to the final playoff. The rankings, and we'll discuss it, debate it, whatever. That says the right answer is Ole Miss. I think he's starting to convince me of that. I just we've known what the right answer is, and it's not always happened. So I'll just say that.
I know that might be the right answer, but also you got to look at their worst loss, and that was Kentucky.
Yeah. So
So you got Alabama that lost pretty bad to Oklahoma recently, and then you got Ole Miss that lost to Kentucky pretty bad.
yeah,
But you see South Carolina, they're on a 6 game win streak, and they blew the brakes out of Texas A&M. They beat Missouri. They I gotta pull it up because I'm drawing a blank. They beat, let's see. Oh goodness. Help me. Where are you at? There you go. Okay, so they destroyed Oklahoma 35-9. They beat the brakes off of Texas A&M the next week 44-20. They beat Vanderbilt 28-7, who, mind you, Vandy almost beat Tennessee. Um, then they go to Missouri, beat Missouri 34-30, and then they play their rival Clemson and beat them 17-14. I know. And then at the same time, early in the season, they beat Kentucky 31-6. So their only bad loss is LSU when they should have beat them, but that was a shootout, and that was 36-33 LSU. Or well, their bad loss was Ole Miss 27-23 or 27-3. So those are their two bad losses, but they're
Yeah.
not bad.
No, there's a
Ole Miss's losses are pretty bad, and same with Alabama. So to me, it's up against Ole Miss and South Carolina, but I would say put South Carolina in just because they have a better loss.
yeah.
Again, I mean, yes, it's against a team that should be above them, but I mean, hey,
Well,
you're losing.
the good thing is, like I said, we'll get an answer to that a week from tonight. But like Dad says, we still do have a show on Friday. We'll do a preview of the SEC championship, so we'll see you guys then. And then we'll get back on here on Sunday and go over all of this for the
For
final
sure.
time. But you do bring up some good points, so it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do. But um, I think that does wrap it up for tonight. So this was another great show. We love doing this. So thank y'all for tuning in now. Thank you for commenting and definitely share with 5 or 10 of your friends. Give us a like if you like what we're doing. Subscribe and turn on notifications because we may, you know, pop up at a different time. And we do really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. I can't believe we're already at the end of another season, so I'm excited for the playoff. But that wraps up the regular season, so we're getting closer and closer to no more football, which is sad. But um,
Still got NFL, but does anybody truly watch that?
yeah, I'm not as up for that. So,
Yeah.
but everyone go have a wonderful week and wonderful rest of your evening. And as always, go dogs.
Go dog.